I'm Richard Gordon, and I've been doing energy healing for 36 years. I founded a business called Quantum Touch, which is in over 50 countries. And what we found is a very clear, direct way to teach people how to move the energy through their body, to raise the life force energy, to allow their body to heal itself naturally, to accelerate the healing process. And that's a really exciting process, but only in the last 2 years did I discover a new way of doing it that completely astounds me. You'd think after all these years I'd start to get a little jaded or tired of what I was doing, but this opened the doors to a wide range of possibilities. Using the advanced form of what we call quantum touch, we're able to move the awareness in such a way where you don't even have to touch a person to see dramatic results. We can actually just send the energy, and you can even see the bones spontaneously move back into correct alignment, just without even touching them, within seconds. And it isn't just like a sum of the time sort of phenomena. This thing happens like all the time. It's virtually 100% phenomena. And well, out of the last couple thousand times I've been trying this on people, I don't remember it not working one time. And one of the really cool things we're doing is we're aligning the sphenoid bone with the occipital ridge. These are some bones inside the head. And when they get aligned, the phenomena is that the hips immediately align themselves front and back, and the occipital ridge is aligned as well. And what makes this so unusual is it tends to keep the alignment over a long period of time. Now, the reason I get so excited and talk way too much about alignment isn't because the work focuses on alignment. We work on the organs and glands and systems of the body. We work on the structural issues. We work pretty much on whatever it is, on pain relief, bringing down inflammation. But I can't show those things in real time. If somebody said, well, let me see what your work does, I can't show how we're affecting the mitochondria in the cells or we're affecting these sorts of things. I can show, however, how we're affecting structure. Because if the structure shifts in a few seconds, then we have a really clear picture that I was able to do something. And the other really exciting thing about this is that perhaps for the first time, we've got a clear, visible, teachable way of showing that consciousness affects matter. And this could be the biggest story since Galileo. 400 years ago, Galileo was showing off his telescope that the Earth was actually going around the sun and that it wasn't the other way around. Well, now we can show that our love and our consciousness actually affects matter and changes the very structure of life. This would be the biggest shift of consciousness that we've seen, and it just seems so important that the word gets out that human beings can do this.
Are you telling me that you basically can do what a chiropractor does with your mind?
Not only what a chiropractor does, but we can do things that a chiropractor can't do. For instance, the chiropractor couldn't work on getting the, well, if they're very bright, they could figure out how to align the sphenoid bone and the occipital ridge so that the hips don't go out. But very few of them know how to do that because people need to keep coming back week after week to see the chiropractor because they keep coming out of alignment. We're actually able to get it so it stays, but we could also work on things chiropractors can't touch. For example, say somebody sprains their ankle, and as an athlete, you've experienced that. Well, typically people put ice on the ankle. I worked with the men's basketball team at UCSC, demonstrating how the healing worked to accelerate the healing process. And what we saw was that an average 10-minute session reduced their pain by 50%. And that was like 12 years ago I did the study. And now we're even better than we were then. But you could bring down the inflammation on a sprained ankle very quickly. You can accelerate the speed that it heals. So we're able to do things that touch on many different fields, including chiropractic, and to do things that people really generally don't know how to do, like how do you take the pain out of a burn? Recently, a few days ago, I interviewed someone who had worked on herself, and she had severe rheumatoid arthritis to the point where she couldn't comfortably walk. She couldn't stand and do the cooking for the family. And her doctor, one of her doctors told her that in a year she'd be in a wheelchair and that she'd be blind. And she said, she took in the information and just said no thank you to him, and then immediately met someone who was doing quantum touch and learned how to do it herself, was working on herself a lot, had some sessions from people, and her symptoms completely reversed. That's way beyond chiropractic. Then just this week, in one of my classes, one of my students was doing sessions, and not only did the woman's scoliosis shift that she worked on, but she said she doesn't think she needs the knee replacement operation anymore like the doctor said. She's going to get the diagnosis soon and we'll find out. But she also said that her compulsive eating shifted where she didn't feel the need to eat. She only, over the entire weekend, she only ate 2 meals and didn't feel like she was missing anything. She just felt really grateful inside. So we're seeing a wide range of phenomena that this healing work affects.
Is there any way you can explain to the layman what quantum physics is, how this works? Because the average person is just going to say, you're full of it, there's no way you can use your brain to do this. So.
Well, you know, people should believe that this is crap. Because if they haven't experienced it or they haven't seen research on it, then I would fully go along with that point of view. There's a lot of stuff out there that's basically crap. But the general principle of quantum touch is that what we're doing is we're learning to use breathing and body awareness to raise our own vibration in ourselves. And we lift what's called the life force energy of our bodies. Now the Chinese call it chi, and the Japanese call it ki, and the yogis call it prana, and many cultures around the world have acknowledged this life energy. And by using various breathing and body awareness exercises, we can lift our vibration really high to a high place. Then through a process of resonance and entrainment, the other person's energy matches yours, and then their body intelligence does the healing. So we like to say that the definition of a healer was someone who was sick and got well. And a great healer was someone very sick who got well quickly, because we don't actually heal anybody else. What we're doing is creating a frequency of vibration. Now that frequency of vibration could be done with the hands, and for 33 years of my work I was using my hands as the way of moving the energy. But then I got the idea that, wow, we could do it directly without even the hands, and it's faster and it's easier and it's more fun than it's ever been before. And now I can work much more quickly and more profoundly. But anybody who says that energy healing is the answer to our problems is exaggerating. It's an answer. It's a great answer. It's an important answer. But on a deeper level are the emotional causes of why we generated the problem. Now about 85–90% of the time, you can create a really nice shift to symptoms with the energy work. And sometimes that's all the person needs. In fact, often that's all they need. But when it doesn't work, that's when I really like to go find the emotional causation of what they were experiencing emotionally that wasn't completed, that they're now expressing through the conditions in their body. Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes in there, especially with your hip that's been out for so long, and with the injuries and the discomfort that it causes. There are expressions, emotional expressions. Now I like the idea that I could give you analgesic help, which we did a little while ago, and that's great. But if that's not enough, if you haven't healed those emotional issues in your life, then we could actually work to find emotional causation. And what's so exciting is not only do the symptoms disappear, but people will even feel really grateful for having had the condition, because it showed them how they had stopped loving. The body had the ability to be sick, not as a dysfunction, but as a communication from your own higher consciousness to show you how you could be well. And using my system, I'd be able to figure it out, probably we could figure it out in 10 or 20 minutes and know exactly what the particular issue was, not as a generalization, but as a very specific emotional set of circumstances that you could then process and release on your own time. Here's the deal. The body heals itself. And we've got a few thousand practitioners around the world in over 50 countries. And they're working on pretty much everything. And we don't know the limits of this work, but to say that it's going to fix A, B, or C, D condition is not true, because the body heals itself. And when things are aligned, yeah, we see tremendous effects. But again, the healer was the one who was sick and got well, and we cannot predict outcome. It's neither something we know how to do or something that's even legal. We can't do that. But what we can do is provide the energy, and we often see wonderful things happening. So for instance, there's an oncologist who writes wonderful things about quantum touch. He says how it reduces their fear, it reduces their pain, it reduces scar tissue, it heals the scar tissue faster, it gives them greater mobility, it raises their spirits. He mentions a ton of things. He might get into trouble if he said it was actually healing them. And we know that if something's raising their spirits and it's accelerating the healing of wounds, then the body is healing itself faster. So whatever capacity the body has to heal itself would be enhanced. And that's about as far as I can go, because that's what we do. We enhance healing. We don't heal anything particularly. We enhance the body's capacity for self-healing. Because think about it. There is no drug that heals people. There's no surgery that heals people. It's the cells that have to heal themselves that are doing the healing. So what we're doing essentially is creating the environment where the body can do that stuff for itself. Okay, one story that was just outlandish and it blew my mind was when I first met my teacher, and he was working on my girlfriend, and she's standing in front of the room, and we're staring at her back, and I realized, wow, look at that, she really has a significant scoliosis. And he said, well, this all moves, and he touches her, and the bones move back to alignment, and this moves here, and within about 10 minutes, she was like halfway straightened out. I was shocked. Then shortly after that, after I learned how to move the energy myself, this is really funny, this friend brought a rabbit to my house, and the rabbit was hopping all around the house. I thought it was really cute until I realized there's these pellets all over the floor. So I had to put the rabbit back in a box. So it takes me a while to corner the rabbit, and I have the rabbit underneath my hands, and it's trembling, figuring in rabbit language that it was going to be dinner. So I started running the energy into the rabbit, and the rabbit relaxed, stopped trembling. And a couple seconds later, the rabbit stretched its front paws forward and its back paws back as far as it could. And then I continued running the energy. My friend is watching like this, and the rabbit flips itself over on its back and lays there, all stretched out on its back, like it was sunning itself on the beach in Hawaii.
And you're giving it love?
I was just giving it love, yeah. And of course, I really believe now that the reason that happened is because the rabbit was so scared. Had the rabbit been relaxed, it would have just not really noticed much of a difference from its normal state to a slightly more relaxed state. But when you take it from terror to total relaxation, it just continues going, okay, I can be totally relaxed now. And I just met a woman who had the same experience with the rabbit. She had a scared rabbit, ran the energy, and it flipped over on its back. At first, when it was flipping, I thought it was going to try to run away. And then when it flipped over on its back, oh my God, my hands were on its belly, and it's just all stretched out.
Wow, you just validated something for me. A little dog, like one of these little ones,
yeah,
got hit by a car in front of our
wow.
house one time.
Yeah.
Yipping like crazy. All
Right.
the neighbors are coming out, just going yip yip.
Yeah.
I went out there, I swear to God, Matt, because I learned this through the Essene meditation that I was
Yes.
studying. And I didn't even believe in it. I thought my girlfriend was whacked, but I went
Yeah.
because I liked this girl.
Right.
But I did it just for shits and giggles. I put my hand on the dog,
Right.
and I pictured light from God
Yeah.
coming in my hand,
Sure.
through my body, and into that dog, and it chilled out right then and there.
Yeah.
I freaked myself out.
Well-
And then I just blew it off as a coincidence.
Well, here's the deal. Virtually any technique you come up with, whether you make it up or you hear it from somebody else, is going to work for energy healing. Now, there are techniques that can raise your energy really profoundly. Just lifting your spirits as you did. You know, to ask and then to be there, that'll work. That's a technique. There's thousands of them. What we like about the quantum touch work that makes it quite unique, as far as I know, is that by using breathing and body awareness to lift our own field of energy, what we're doing is we're creating an extremely high frequency of vibration. And so we never get tired or drained from doing the work. But many people are using their own energy, or they don't know how to raise their spirit sufficiently, so they don't entrain or match the vibration of the person they're working on, which is what causes them to get tired or drained. We just walk people right through from beginning right through, so that by the end of a weekend workshop, everybody's doing some pretty awesome work.
Just, you don't have to tell me right now, but am I in the right ballpark? Do you like envision suns filling you full of light, that kind of stuff?
No. Well, I'll tell you what we do. We use body awareness exercises where we're feeling awareness moving through our body. We're just feeling ourselves, essentially. And we're learning how to move it in certain patterns. And then we link it with certain breathing patterns. So we're moving body awareness and linking it with breathing. Now, If somebody wants to pray or somebody wants to connect to source or whatever it is, great, go do those things, because that's what works for you. Somebody can just think of how much they love their cat, and that works too. But what we're wanting to do is get you feeling connected with yourself. And in that connected space, as you're using the breathing, as you're using the body awareness, and you're linking them together, then we get this awesome effect. That's why I would say that everybody's able to move bones back into alignment before lunch day on the first day of a workshop, or their money back, because it works. That's using your hands. The level 2 work that I've just come up with recently is where we do it with consciousness directly. And that's what gets so exciting for the scientists and the physicists, is they can pass off the energy work to placebo or some other psychological mechanism and say, oh yeah, but when something works on infants and animals and people under general anesthesia, plants, fluids, minerals, and be able to adjust people at a distance when they don't believe it or when they're hostile against you, that's when it gets really interesting, because that's paradigm-changing information. I was at a consciousness conference in Tucson not too long ago, and I had a big sign on the wall, and the sign said, "Consciousness affects matter, free demo." And the scientist's like, come on. I said, okay, what do you got here? I said, well, let me measure your hips. Oh, wow, they're really off, about as far off as you usually ever see them, about like that. And I said, well, I'm going to attempt to put them back into alignment without touching you. And he goes, well, that's impossible. I said, great, hold that thought. So I want to make it a little harder. And then I said, in fact, while we're at it, why don't you kind of lock your hips and just kind of make it so they can't move. So all right, so he's kind of like that. And 10 seconds later, I measure him. Oh, look, they're completely level. He said, well, yeah, I used reverse psychology on me. And I said, well, that's an interesting hypothesis. So do you consider yourself a faith-based scientist? He said, well, of course not, I'm empirical. I said, oh, wonderful. Well, as an empirical scientist, why don't you watch me do this 8 or 10 more times and see if I'm using reverse psychology? And he says, if I let myself believe this just happened, everything I know about science would fall like a house of cards. And I said, well, as an empirical scientist, don't you want to let the cards fall where they will? And he said, not today. Because it's too big a shift for most people to go from a completely mechanical viewpoint of the reality to more of a quantum perspective, where it's all energy and it's all consciousness. And energy and consciousness responds to itself and to each other quite clearly and quite easily. If they visit quantumtouch.com, that would be a great place for them to start. And they can learn about the basic workshops, the advanced workshops. We've got the advanced workshops in Europe, Australia, Japan, what's left of it, Hawaii, most of the United States, Canada. So we've got them out there. And the beginning workshops, they're everywhere. And people can also watch the video as a DVD, and soon we're going to have them online where you can watch them on demand.